Hi, welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I am your host, Jordan, joined by Kyle and Tijmen and Colton. And we are talking today about Honda's EV strategy. Now, before I lose you, me and Tijmen actually went to Honda, their EV hub, which is now in Ohio. And to try to figure out what's going on there, they actually invite a bunch of journalists out from all over the place to see the Honda EV hub. And there's a lot to kind of dive into here, but there's also wasn't really enough to do like a whole video on site. It was a really interesting but also strange, convoluted tour, and we were trying to understand what their actual strategy is. A few weeks ago, I went out to LA to film the Honda Zero Series concepts. We saw them unveiled at CES. All four of us were at CES. That was pretty interesting. The Zero Series meaning starting from ground zero. But then me and Tijmen went to see their factories that are kind of being sort of partially converted and
revamped and updated to fit the EV lineup.
Felt very ground zero. So I think just a bunch of things to dive into here and see if we can gather through this conversation exactly what's going on. So I guess first, what is the Honda EV Hub? It is a network of campuses in the Columbus, Ohio region. So we had to go to Ohio, which was, I haven't really been there in a while. It's not a common travel destination. But it's a few different campuses.
That's not true. You went for the surge, didn't you?
Oh, I guess we passed through Ohio.
Went through it.
Yeah, and the I-90 surge. You know, I kind of blinked and missed it. But there is a number of Honda campuses, factories, production centers in Ohio, in Columbus. So what they call the hub is actually a network of buildings all within roughly 50 miles of each other that create what they kind of consider the global mother, which is a weird term, but Honda's used it many times before, where Honda's a global company. And if one like campus or factory or whatever comes up with this really brilliant solution, that's the global mother for that one thing. So this actually has been, for the last 40 some years, the global mother of Honda engine production. So this is where they make pretty much most of their internal combustion engines, including the Type R engine, the Type S engines, like all the fun ones. Even the hand-built NSX engines were done in this factory. And they're all very excited about that. So it kind of felt like just like a cool internal combustion engine tour type thing. But I kept remembering, oh yeah, we're here for the EV stuff.
Right. I mean, we kind of wanted to film inside, but it was loud in there. Nothing. I mean, they were working. Everyone was working.
Yeah.
We were the only ones that were just like rolling through. Let's see the new stuff. They had to cut walls to fit machinery in there. They had six-ton die cast things that just cut these battery cell cases.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag of they make like the battery cases in one place. They make the actual, well, the battery cells are actually sourced from Honda and LG's joint venture. And then they actually assemble it all in a different place. It's very kind of convoluted how they like do some stuff in one place and they have to transport it to another place. That's why the idea of the hub exists, is because it all is all within 50 miles. So ideally you're not transporting things that far. So that's very efficient. They're very focused on efficiency and
recycling,
recycling, environmental friendliness, and yeah, just talking about EVs. But then I did keep trying to ask everyone there what EVs they've driven or drive, and none of them drive EVs. So that
nice.
Was also interesting. So it's just, yeah, I think going into this, we weren't exactly sure how they were going to portray things, because, you know, we've driven Prologue. Kyle was at the Prologue event, the Acura ZDX event. And the Prologue and the ZDX are the only two models for sale here in the U.S. under the Honda/Acura moniker. But they're not really Honda/Acura vehicles. For those who don't know, it's a GM platform, the Ultium-ish platform that now has their badges. But Honda and Acura didn't really do much on those at all.
Right. That's my understanding. Hold on. Let me see if I can get us on the camera here. Essentially, the Prologue and ZDX, which I didn't realize this until recently, they're almost identical in size.
Yeah.
They're, I always thought it was like one was small, one was large, but they're all just the same.
Yeah.
And ZDX is like a little bit nicer with some more features. You can get more power. You can get an expensive Type S. And, you know, clearly they did nothing. Honda in
Yeah.
this. What the way that happened was, and I did a whole interview. Maybe it was on this channel, maybe it was for reviews. I don't remember. I think it was on our podcast channel with John Huang, who is the chief engineer of Prologue and ZDX. And I said, okay, how'd the partnership work? And they basically went to General Motors, and to dumb it down a little bit, General Motors like gave them like a diner menu and said, okay, you can have this feature, this feature, this feature, this thing. You guys design it. We'll put that top hat on the platform and call it a day. And it is a General Motors product that Honda did no durability testing on. They just said they rely, it's in the podcast.
Yeah.
They rely on GM's longevity and durability to warranty, to do all this stuff for ZDX and Prologue. And I just thought Honda would have cared a bit more. Now, automaker partnerships are not unusual. Supra comes to mind between
Right, that
Toyota.
worked out really well. For
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's a great car, very reliable. Everyone's happy, and BMW got a Z4 next generation, and Toyota got the Supra, and that works out great. This is I think GM is benefiting quite a bit because the sales have actually been quite high on these models. Surprisingly so. At the same time, like Honda put in almost relatively no engineering dollars into this. It was phone it in. The fact that they're talking about starting over and they're going to do it their way going forwards. And this is those are one model only vehicles. They are both slated for mid-cycle refreshes, but after that they're done. So we won't ever see another General Motors Honda electric car based on the Ultium platform, at least that we know about. Honda is now doing their own in-house development. And it was, it's like, why not just start with that? And I think they were just way too late to the game. It's such a big company. They're so slow at adapting. And I think slow at understanding what customers want from their cars.
Yeah, and perhaps they are focused heavily. I mean, Honda does have their North American headquarters in Torrance, California, and California is very EV heavy. But then over in Ohio, where everything's actually made, there are almost no EVs. Like as a percentage,
they were
far
all
less.
talking about how everything around them is just farms, farm this, farm that, and how everyone drives their trucks around. Nothing EV related.
So those GM Ultium ones are one and done.
Yes.
They're and what we have to do a podcast. We have to get a review. We need a car here. Prologues are really selling.
Yeah.
Why?
So they were the 4th or 6th best-selling EV last year. They sold over 33,000 units, and that was starting in March. They didn't even sell before. It was the end of March. So the first quarter is almost a write-off. But basically what they told us is they're actually heavily discounted by dealers. And also they're losing money in every single one.
That's what Honda told you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's amazing.
So, but a lot of people do like them, and a lot of like no one here actually had an EV, but they all had some family member who like helped like use their Honda discount to get a Prologue, and so they like knew someone with a Prologue, and they were like happy with it or something.
Yeah, it's a fine car, but you can't get lane centering on it.
That was crazy to me. Someone else was
We
like,
brought that up too, and they're like, "Yeah, we know."
They tried to convince me that it had lane centering at the launch, and I'm like, guys, it doesn't have lane centering.
yeah,
It just does the ping-ponging thing.
yeah,
And so the only way to get lane centering is to get the like $70-something thousand ZDX Type S.
which has the GM system.
Right, Super Cruise.
Super
But you can't
Cruise.
call it, you have to call it Acura Watch 360 Plus.
Oh man, that sounds
I think
like
that's
a
the name. I don't know.
security
It's something.
system.
Yeah.
So those are one and done. I don't think ZDX is all that popular, but Prologue is really selling in terms of numbers. I see them very often. I don't think I've seen a ZDX on
I've
the
seen
road.
one in golden, a white one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen like 1 or 2 in Colorado. I've seen quite a bit in California, and actually some in Ohio, but
Yeah,
they
there
were
was,
all
like-
employee vehicles.
Yeah, there were probably like 10 maybe in both parking lots of both factories, in total 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some people driving them in the factory, but that's not really.
Yeah. And then, we had the Honda E over in Europe
Yeah.
and the Yay P7 and S7, which are the new EVs in China. And
But then there's also the Honda electric SUV, not under the A brand. There's a Honda E-Any-One exclamation point or something like that. E New York 1.
yeah.
I saw it in Munich. It's another Honda.
I don't think anyone in the U.S. knows those even exist.
Everyone knows
I
about
know.
the Honda E, I think, and that's really about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Honda E was great, but we also had one on test.
Yeah, terrible car to parallel park. Those cameras, so small.
Oh, yeah, because it uses the digital mirror things,
Yep.
and it's so hard to gauge where you are.
Yeah, so that's what the prototypes of the 0 Series are also using at the moment of the cameras, but they feel slightly far from final production, of course.
So what is 0 Series? Because I honestly haven't watched the video.
So that's the saloon and the SUV. So
Oh, the things at CES.
at CES, yeah. So we
The
saw
Dustbuster.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
The Lamborghini Gallardo.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So we saw the original concepts last year at CES, which was the 0 Series Saloon and Space Hub, which was sick. But now these are the prototypes, which in Honda's terms mean much closer to production, practically there.
Right. I spoke to someone and I was like, how close are these looking to production? He's like, I can't tell for certain, but we're like 90% there. Like pretty similar.
Similar.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
And
That's really surprising.
Well, there's like no way. There's it's a very rough prototype, but it's a hand built prototype. So I mean, maybe they are. But trying to piece together.
Where are they
things,
engineering them?
I don't know. They'll all be built in Ohio.
Right, but are they engineering them here in the U.S. or are they engineering them in Japan?
I don't know.
Yeah. I would love
They
to
didn't
know.
mention any of that.
Yeah, but those are the first Hondas that will be built, and they'll be built next year. So Saloon will be early next year.
That's 26.
Sorry, SUV will be early 26. The Saloon will come later in 26. But what comes even sooner than that is the Acura RSX, which is based on the concept you guys filmed in Monterey.
Yep.
The design vision.
Where
Yep.
you did the interview with Dave.
Dave's
Yep.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dave's awesome.
Was he there?
Yeah. So, wait,
Nope,
was that?
Dave was not
I
there.
think Dave left. He retired.
No, someone
I
else.
don't
I'm
know.
thinking of.
Someone else that was at that booth was there that I spoke with.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that's coming first. That's the first ground up Honda EV in the U.S. It is, yeah.
I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to be.
Wait, what's that?
It's going to be underwhelming.
Well, they have prototypes of the 0 models, but not RDX, and that's the closest to production. They still have
RSX.
RSX.
What is RSX? That's the
concept you filmed?
It's like a coupified SUV
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
that was that's what they showed us. Still the concept car.
Oh, the same one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I've seen photos of it with camouflage all over it.
Yeah, they do have prototype mules somewhere, just not here at this event. But that's going to be built later this year in these transforming in process factories. And we don't really know any specs. It's just the controversial naming of a 90s sports car now as an SUV, but we've seen that a few times now. Kind of like Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross and
Or
Mustang
Mach-E.
Yeah.
so we'll to see how well that's perceived, but I don't know. It's kind of an uninspiring SUV at the moment, and the actual prototype looks way worse than. I mean, the concept was kind of cool looking, but then the prototype was like
Well, the prototypes are supposed to look bad.
yeah.
But the concept also kind of just looked like a land boat, kind of with how pointy the front end was.
Yep.
Yeah, it was weird.
Very weird.
So I mean, to your point, they just feels like they're very behind and trying to figure out what to do, kind of flailing a bit to figure out what to do.
Right, because they have nothing at the moment. They have no battery electric models in America that were designed and engineered by themselves. So they have zero core internal competency to building electric cars that the American market has seen. The cars that they have built for other markets are dog shit. So, and then here they went to GM.
Yeah.
And those cars competitively do not stack up in any way, shape, or form to anything. The only way they're selling is because they're literally giving them away.
Yep.
I hate to be such a Debbie Downer, but that's my view.
Yeah.
I'm also glad I didn't go to this because I would yell at everyone. Be like, what are you doing? Okay, so hold on. Question. Sorry. You went to Ohio
Mm-hmm.
and the ZDX and Prologue are not built in Ohio, right?
I don't know where.
Correct. There's no EV getting built until late 2025 in those factories.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they wanted to their credit. I thought it was cool that they wanted to show the process of them even setting up the factory. So it wasn't like let's bring journalists in and see this really polished like final thing. Like we're so excited. Like we've seen a lot of other factory situations. This was like kind of a rough and tumble run and gun type of like look at the process, the progress we're making. It almost felt like what they would show, like which they have been. They've had Honda corporate leaders from all over the world coming to this factory to see the progress of the motherland, the mothership.
Yeah, what
whatever.
they have spent $1 billion, I'm guessing, on retrofitting this to make EVs.
Yeah, so it's a different approach. A lot of other companies, even legacy brands, have set up an EV factory. So this is the opposite approach, where they're taking existing factory that's been building the Accord since 1982 to now hopefully build EVs, kind of in succession with ICE vehicles, kind of like what we saw at Magno in Austria. It was like I-Pace and F-Pace on the same line, just like there goes a battery one, there goes a combustion one.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon. Mercedes does that in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, they were saying the same thing. It's pretty common for them to do that. That nothing really changes except where everything goes.
Right, so they can alter the mix between combustion and battery electric based off of market demands.
Yep. So the last I've heard, they're still claiming the aim for 100% EV and fuel cell EV by 2040. So we'll just have to see. That seems pretty far out.
That's
So long.
who knows? That'll be walked back or brought forwards. Who knows? That's just too far away to gauge.
Yeah, but the terminology is like second founding, starting from ground zero. Like they're like, this is Honda's full second creation in the electric world.
So they're saying they're fully committed to EV.
Yep. So
whether that's fuel cell EV or battery electric.
Yeah, because they do make now. They showed us the building where they made the NSX, and now that building is where they build the fuel cell, the hydrogen CRV,
which I want to drive.
Yeah,
because it's a plug-in hybrid hydrogen.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, it'd be kind of a cool daily.
I wish it was a range extended EV with hydrogen.
That'd be cool.
Like I wish it had a bigger electric battery and then the fuel cell as a generator.
Yeah,
because I think the problem right now with hydrogen is the infrastructure in our country.
Yeah,
and so there's way more EV charging than hydrogen fueling.
Yeah, no one really knew much about the hydrogen one or like where to fill it up.
Who were you with, by the way?
Bunch of communications people, comms people.
The factory communications people or like product comms?
Mostly factory, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe some product comms. And then a bunch of factory, like head of factory departments, engineers, people designing the lines, the production lines, figuring out which equipment they need.
So it's really more of a story, more of a visit to not talk about the product, not talk about the upcoming cars, the statistics. It's about how are they going to build those in the future, and what's your impression of their ability to retrofit the line and to build those?
I mean,
exactly. They really just wanted to show, we are spending so much money retrofitting this 40-year-old factory that used to make old Accord and Civics to where it makes now new Accords and TLXs. And they're like, this is everything we're doing. We're updating, the conveyor belt, because EVs are so heavy, it can't withstand, our old one can't withstand the weight. So we had to update that. We had to move this around, that around, and a bunch of stuff to where it really was just like, okay, cool. Like, I see you guys are moving forward, but it's also like they wanted to flex that some of these aspects hadn't been done last week. They just did it like 3 days ago before we came.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So we saw the engine factory, the Anna engine factory, where they have built engines since, I think the first one was the Goldwing engine back in the 80s.
That's a flat six, right?
I don't remember what that was.
Oh, I don't know. Early Goldwing.
Big motorcycle engines, and now that's where the most engines in the whole world, as far as what Honda builds, come from here. And that's where they now build still the engines, but now also alongside the engines, the cases for the batteries. So
the battery enclosures will be built, though.
The battery enclosures are built in two halves, and then
so they don't use an actual welder, so no sparks or anything. They have like a Dremel bit basically on a robot arm that melts it together. So they just have a robot put it on one spot, clamps it together, another arm comes in and just like welds it together. So you can stand there without glasses on or anything and look at the weld, and you'd be perfectly
smell like welding.
Yep, be perfectly safe.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
It was really cool. Like this is a technology they were highlighting in this tour, was what's called friction stir welding. So it's a solid state welding. So yeah, just a spinny thing that basically melts them into plastic as it goes across and brings it together, and then the two halves are made in these giant, as Tijmen said earlier, die cast.
They're like the size
casting.
of each of these bays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Height,
sure.
length, width, all of it.
Yeah.
And 6 tons
Yeah,
6,000 tons.
Oh,
6,000 tons.
yeah. And they had to cut the doors to fit it. Like they thought that was like the best thing ever
Okay.
because
Yeah.
they're retrofitting this 40-year-old
Well,
factory.
large die casting pieces is becoming huge in automotive. I just saw a huge one at the Zeekr factory where they do the entire rear subframe of their SEA platform with one stamp.
Yeah.
Which is
And
pretty
they
amazing.
do-
And well, I guess it's not really a stamp; it's a fill and pressurized, and then it pops out.
Any extra piece of metal just gets cycled back by like a vacuum or something and thrown back into the fire pit or whatever they use to melt. So they said every 3 to 4 casts, the excess turns into a new cast.
It's cool.
Yep. So no waste of materials and stuff. Yeah, and then they also put the water jacket on the back of the battery case. So yeah, and then those cases are then shipped down the road, which is actually about 50 miles away
It's an hour drive.
to
Wow.
another factory where the actual batteries themselves are assembled. So
And did you go to that
Yeah.
factory?
so yeah,
So
that
how many factories did you go to?
2.
Oh, okay.
So one was just engines and the battery enclosures.
Mhm.
The other was actually where the cars are built.
So
and
they have an end of line there.
yeah, and so that's where they were. In this case, they were assembling Honda Accords and some TLXs. All
Yeah, TLX was starting in the line.
Yeah.
Accord was at the end of the line.
So it was mostly conveyor belt type situations, except for the battery area. That was where they had kind of they just have robots that would go around with the battery as it's being assembled, I guess. Cells put in and everything else.
Do you know what cells they're using?
Nope, and they wouldn't say, but we could tell that they was basically they're gonna have 2 battery pack sizes, a 13 module and a 16 module. For what they're saying is medium size and large size SUVs. So I don't know. With the one car coming out the end of the year, surely that'll get one of these batteries. It could get both, perhaps, but
What about the Afila,
yeah, they don't know anything about
They
that.
didn't talk anything about that.
about the Sony project? Nothing.
Yeah, they said they don't really talk to each other like that. That
Yeah, there's
that
like
is a joint venture that is completely separate people engineering everything, so they don't really.
there's communication there, they said, but not like consistent communication. Maybe like once or twice a month they talk to one another.
Yeah, but there's no like input on what's working for each other.
What's the purpose of that car?
I don't know.
Throw money away.
Because the specs are really bad.
Really
Yeah.
bad.
Well, that's what makes me a little worried. I mean, I don't know all the specs on the Yay stuff in China, but like I don't. The Afila doesn't have great specs.
Yeah, if their top luxury car has specs from 2015, what is their average mid-size SUV going to be like? Which is what's coming out this year.
Yeah, but I think those are separate. So like for all we know, this Acura RSX could have far better specs than the Afila and somehow be cheaper.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, which they need to do. I mean,
Yeah.
all they know now is the Prologue and the ZDX, which are fine cars, but not spec leading in like any way.
I think Honda is way too conservative to be a real player in the electric revolution.
They're super interested in their Type R motor though.
Yeah.
they had motors out for us to look at. So like the Type S motor, the Type R motor and stuff. That was cool.
Great. But even when you drive like a Type S, it doesn't have enough balls. They don't move. Yeah, but you drove one across the country.
Yeah, it was fine.
It's fine, but you could buy a 335 and it's faster, or 340.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I also was like, it needed massaging seats for $70,000. They're like, yeah, we kind of know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm so disappointed from the outside looking in on this brand that's built some of the best enthusiast cars in history, clearly saying they're doing all of the one thing and then not doing it. Everything that they're showing you now should have been shown in 2012.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 15, anywhere between 10 and 15 years too late to just start thinking about building electric cars.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy here is EVs are hugely popular in Asia, incredibly popular in certain states in the US. And what Honda, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but what Honda's saying to you guys, because you went on this thing, is, guys, it's 2025. Look, we're just starting to think about building an electric car and we're going to put it on the same line as our combustion cars. How cool is that? And I just look at that and go, what the hell is going on
Yeah,
here?
it would have been a lot cooler if this plant was in 2015 made and done that we looked at. And
Yeah.
then now they're building an entire new factory that's like modernized for EVs only.
Would have been amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not have a brand new factory?
Money.
Yep. They just bought
I get
Nissan,
it.
so
Yeah.
Did that go through? I don't
know.
don't-
They didn't really talk about that at
they didn't
all.
want to talk about that.
No.
So, yeah, that's kind of
I think the Japanese are in a really bad position.
what I'm left with because they do all seem to be their approach is conservative and cautious, but also they're very intentional and they're obsessed with efficiency. In all these little places they brought us, like all these stops on the tour, they're like, look at the efficiencies we made on this. And even when I was filming the prototypes, like they were like, these are going to have great specs. We can't tell you yet, but it's going to be a small battery to take you a long ways. Like they're trying to like obsess about
so then
efficiency.
it gets cold out, and that theory goes out the window.
Right.
I want big battery, big efficiency. Let's do that.
So yeah, a lot of claims with no data. I mean, partially because we're just not that close to the cars being made yet. But
I just think they deserve all the skepticism in the world.
Oh,
They
yeah,
have
yeah.
not proven us that they can build a good electric car yet.
yeah, I feel like I am just trying to be cautiously optimistic, like trying to be optimistic, but the caution of that part is growing more and more and more and more.
And that's crazy because you were just with them, and
Yeah.
it didn't build any confidence in your side that the products are going to be good.
I mean, it just felt like a general, not really disinterest. Like they just haven't really tried to like drive, because like I feel like all the manufacturers need to try the competition. I mean, you just did the video of the Zeekr charging, like, and you want every OEM to watch that
Yes.
because that is now the competition.
Yes.
And it feels like they don't really have their finger on the pulse of the competition.
What I want to know is how many mid-cycle refreshes or new models will a typical Chinese automaker come out with in the process of Honda building this factory?
25.
Probably something crazy. I mean, they're just slow. They're late. They're not being if you're going to be slow and late, at least learn what people are doing and surpass them. Based off the Afila, that seems really bad. The
Yeah,
prototypes that we filmed are cool, but they're saying small battery, so we already know that even if it's a small battery with a lot of range, it could be efficient in perfect conditions.
Yeah.
We know as soon as you drive fast on the highway or you have a cold day or lots of wind, if you don't have battery capacity, you don't have capacity.
Yep.
And then you're kind of screwed. And if you have a small battery, it probably means slow charging.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, Honda's going to either have to, discount the hell out of it to sell it or, make it actually, compete on the price side of things, which they've been good at in the past. And I'm sure it will drive well because Hondas drive really well. They're tuned well. They're enthusiasts. They're really great cars. They have the best manual transmissions in the world. They just suck at EVs.
And if they can pull out all the stops and like actually make the design interesting, like the concepts, like what we've seen with Kia and Hyundai, then maybe they stand a chance from that regard. Because like people will buy the ID Buzz even though it's not really great any of the specs on paper.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it's a really cool, unique car, and some people are like, "That's awesome."
But
I don't know if
some
that means
people-
sells well. Yeah,
Yeah, some people.
it'll make great headlines and like cool photos, but like the reality of the sales figures are going to be hard. And then I'm worried they're going to do what Toyota kind of did. It's like, look, no one's buying the BZ4X. No one wants electric apparently.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
like,
This is going to go one of two ways, this car. It's either going to be a BZ4X competitor, which, let's be honest, BZ4X does sell. It's
Yeah, because
just
they're cheap.
they're cheap and they're rental cars, and it's got the Toyota brand heritage. This has the Honda brand heritage.
Yeah.
It's going to screw a lot of people if they take that approach. They're going to go, wow, EVs really suck. I mean, I'm in the BZ4X owners club. Everyone hates their cars. They're like, wow, really made the wrong decision here. Some people are like, fine, I charge at home. It's good. It's got great all-wheel drive. It does, whatever. And they did improve it for the new model year.
Yep.
But if Honda takes that approach, then they're totally done. If they somehow surprise us and go, hey, we built a real Model Y competitor, that'd be amazing.
yeah. And I feel like they kind of need to. Otherwise, people are going to like make fun of them.
Well, I'm preemptively saying I've got no optimism, all
Yeah.
skepticism, and they can prove me wrong, and I'm excited to be proven wrong.
I just don't know if they know what the industry and people are looking for in like with the 0 Series or prototypes. They have some specs they're talking about, such as I think they said around 300 miles of range, and then they said 15 to 80 charging in like 15 minutes. Like they said like not 10 to 80 like everyone else is talking about. It's like they don't know that's the metric. They just said, oh, it'll do 15 to 80% in like 15 minutes.
But that's still pretty fast.
That'll be
Yeah,
that'll be
that's good.
great if they
Yeah,
can do that.
That's great. If those numbers are coming out of their mouth, I don't care what metric. That sounds that sounds pretty good. Which car was this for?
The 0 Series prototypes.
Wow, so they might actually charge well.
That would be great. I mean, I'm really hoping they're just like watching everyone and making great cars and engineering.
Yeah, they really
like
just
crazy
need to
right now.
Watch Kyle talk about this.
Well, they just have a lot of work to do because they've instilled zero confidence in anyone.
Yeah.
And so I think they deserve to be like, oh shit, we kind of are slow here.
Yeah.
And like we kind of suck in the EV world. Their combustion car Type R is amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Type S,
It's all right.
it's all
It just needs downpipes and a
just
tune.
doesn't move. You hit the throttle and it's and it makes the pop shift. Only sometimes you can't get it down into first gear at times.
Yeah, and
so-
in like Sport Plus, it's way too aggressive to drive on like the highway to have some fun. It's
sometimes I don't know. I just don't think I subscribe to their ethos on most things.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not to say it's a bad car. It's not to say people will disagree with me. I hope they do because this large automaker needs to stay in business.
Yeah.
In the future.
we need
with
more
EVs.
Type R's.
Yeah, I just feel like they are the Japanese in general are doing the least interesting things.
And I feel like they know how to build a car. I mean, it seems like they're all built pretty well. It's funny, we make fun of the Prologue for having no lane centering. It's an expensive car. And then they have the Civic, which is really cheap and has great lane centering. And so it's just like, that's funny. I know there's different brands of cars technically under the skin. But then like we saw, like they've made a huge point to show us the final assembly part where they're like, the cars are assembled. They have a whole slew of people going through all of the cars, measuring every panel gap.
Tesla could never.
It's like
Yeah.
Colton was standing at the end, just like
Nice.
looking at each of them. And
Yeah,
like,
this lady was hammer and just like, all right, door slam. All right, that's good. On to the next panel.
it's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah, they're like really good at like dialing in every single panel gap and everything. And they made sure, watertight. Like they're doing all the testing and stuff. They said they're gonna have, testing to test the DC fast charging of every single car as it leaves the line and stuff. So like they're planning to test all the normal things. It's just, when is that going to start? It'd be great. I'd love to go back to this factory in a year when they're claiming that these cars will be made at that point. Like, I want to see it done.
Seems
Yeah,
like
I'd like
a lot
to
do.
see a Honda Zero end of production line to see what it looks like.
So I just want to know why you went there.
I don't know.
Yeah, don't ask me. Jordan said, "Let's go." Well, they were bringing the one EV has gone through the plant completely.
What?
Well, I'm guessing a prototype because they showed a clip of an EV getting the battery put on and something else, and it was covered by tarp.
Oh, well, that's a big story.
Yeah, so they I guess they've now built an EV.
Well, that's the Honda built one EV.
Yeah.
in America from their own brand. Okay, we should have started with that.
Kind of forgot. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Did they say it went through the whole line? They were just testing out putting the battery to a car. So it actually could have been a cord that they were just because it was covered by a sheet.
It's so weird.
The story really is just like, this is the EV hub. I think a lot of people are wondering, like, what does EV hub mean? And
It doesn't sound like much. It sounds like combustion hub, the way you're describing it.
Is
with
what
a
it is right
tiny,
now.
But
Yes.
it sounds like it will be combustion hub with a tiny bit of EV.
yeah.
Well,
And
did they say what the percentage mix will be?
no, but they said it's infinitely adjustable.
Right. So it could be like, oh, EV hub, our EV kind of sucks, 1%.
Yep.
So it's really the ICE, EV, hydrogen, everything hub.
Right. Why do they call it EV hub?
I don't know.
We got a cool coin though that says EV Hub Ohio.
Oh, well, that was worth the trip.
it's for clean marketing. That's really they're trying to be like, look how clean we are.
I would almost consider this greenwashing.
A little bit. It kind of feels like that.
It feels like really dumb.
Yeah.
I hate to be such a downer because they did invite
No,
us
it's
and it's nice of them. But
Yeah,
I
it's
hope-
nice, but also like I would expect people that work there for this EV hub that are so excited that I've been here for 30 years. I've been to every plant in the nation. And then they're like, I don't even drive an EV.
But they're all very excited about the hub. And so like maybe this is the turning point. It's just a little later than it should have been,
Yeah,
or a
10
lot
years.
later. Yeah. But they all seem very excited about it. And like the EV parts of the factory, they said like they don't have enough spots. People who work at Honda are rushing to get the spots to work on the EVs because they're very curious. So I'm just hoping this year is transformative for them because it kind of has to be.
yeah, so it's a factory story, not a product story. I hope
Yeah.
we can learn more about the engineering of the car
Yeah.
because I'm incredibly skeptical
Mm-hmm.
and they've done nothing to prove us otherwise.
And then one of the main entrances of the factory, they had two like bass Accords just
Nice.
as a showcase.
Well, why wouldn't they put like a TLX Type S or something fun?
Yeah,
No, no.
they were just two base models sitting right up front.
Well, they had the 0 Series prototypes and the
Yeah, but
Acura
they were
concept.
only there for like the 22nd to yesterday, basically, and then they're going somewhere else. They said.
Yeah, for like 3 days.
So anyway, yeah, love. I like the people at Honda. I love that they're into motorsport. I love the old school products. I'm a Honda guy. Love it. God damn, do they really need to get their electric shit together? Colton, what's your impression after hearing all this?
Yeah, I've been like zero interested in Honda, and this doesn't inspire me to be interested. I think I've driven one Honda in my entire life, and that was about it.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. We saw the concepts or the zeros at CES, and I was like, they look so far out there. I'd be really curious if they're even going to be similar.
I think they will be.
Yeah, I think the front end on the saloon will change a bit because it just seems very expensive once things start breaking.
Yeah.
Like the lights on the bottom.
But the SUV seemed really close.
Yeah.
The SUV is a bit closer. Still not there, but like far closer than the saloon, I think. And whatever they do with the SUV, I think will be a pretty good identifier to what the saloon will be like, because the interiors are very similar across both of them. So
they got to get rid of the yoke steering wheel.
The yoke is interesting, but they're looking at steer by wire on the saloon specifically. They haven't confirmed anything with the SUV, but they're planning steer by wire for the saloon. So
Still get rid of the
So
yoke.
then the SUV won't have steer by wire.
Because if it doesn't have lane centering, you can't drive with your knee.
Yeah, that is a problem with a yoke wheel. You can't push the wheel around with
Yeah,
your
you
knee.
just-
You got to go opposite.
yeah,
So with the Cybertruck, I'm good at going opposite because I can't text on FSD. So I drive with my knees.
But he doesn't text and drive.
I don't, of course not. I'm just saying it's, yeah. So, okay, well, that sounds like a waste of a trip.
kind of feels a little bit like.
What did everyone else feel like?
Oh, well, that's the thing. Like walking back to the hotel after the last dinner, the other journalists I was with were like, I'm not really sure what to write. So I don't know. That's not a good look, I guess.
No, it seems like what I hate more than anything is having our working time wasted.
Mhm.
And the fact that we went there for what could have been an email
Mhm.
and you didn't see anything that was video worthy
Mhm.
and other people felt the same way shows that the company really doesn't have anything exciting to tell.
Yeah, like this could have been like they could have spent the resources they used to put all this together on making a well shot video by themselves and then send it to us and being like, here's what we're up to.
Yeah,
And
that would
that
have made sense.
Could have been a cool podcast. Would have been a lot easier for us. Because I'd love to see this later. Like I think it's cool to film like EV production in factories, but that just wasn't really ready for that yet. It's getting there, but it's just like there was no EVs to show. So there's nothing tangible for our audience to be like, oh, that's how that works.
I just want to remind everyone we're shooting this podcast in the year 2025.
Wow.
Seems like a lot to do in a year.
Yeah, this is not a rerun. This is not, this podcast is not from 2010.
Yeah. So that was our experience at the Honda EV Hub.
Sorry to hear that.
Thanks.